Okay, everybody, welcome to the first of a number of tutorials here on AutoCAD. Now, AutoCAD is an Autodesk product which allows you to draw on the computer using various functions. You can draw in 2 dimensions. You can also draw in 3 dimensions. So what we're going to do today is look at the different settings on AutoCAD and how to get yourself set up if you're really starting from scratch. Now, you'll not always have a template to work from, so it means you might have to change a few things like units. You might have to change from inches into millimeters. So we're going to go through a few things just now. First thing you really want to get yourself set up with is some sort of a template anyway. And what we'll do here is go into the big red A at the top left of your screen. You'll see an arrow next to that, and you want to click that. And what you want to do is go into New, and that should take you into various templates. Okay, so the one that I would like you to go into is this one here, which is halfway down, called CAD ISO. Okay, just there, and you want to click on that and make sure you open that. Okay, now we are in a template. It's quite limited what you have here, but at least you know with this particular template, CAD ISO, is that you're drawing in millimeters. Right? If you go into any other template, you'll probably end up in either inches or something else like that, centimeters. So this is the best one. And if you're unsure, just check by clicking on this command line here at the bottom of the screen and type in units. Okay, takes a wee while to come up there, and then press enter. Okay, so it'll come up with a dialog box, as we call it here, and the units are millimeters. Okay, and you'll see the precision is set to 0.000. Now, with millimeters, we know that millimeters are very small, so we don't need to be that precise. We can just set them to 0 here. And then we'll click OK. So we're happy enough with that. And a couple of other things you want to check on when you're in this particular template is that you're drawing 1 millimeter equals 1 unit. So again, we'll go to this big red A up at the top left of your screen, and we'll click that downward arrow, and we'll go down to this print tab here. Hover over that, you don't click on it, you just go hover over it and then go up to page setup. Click on page setup. Page setup manager. Now there's a couple of things there, it'll be on your screen. If you were to plot directly from this particular drawing space, it would come up as 210 by 297. We're going to ignore that for now, but that is an A4 sheet that you're looking at there. If you go into modify here and click on that, and really what you want to be checking is that your plot scale isn't all over the place. Okay, so go down to plot scale here and untick this fit to paper and make that 1 millimeter equals 1 unit. Okay, this is really important. Okay, because when you go to print out, you want to make sure that you're drawing at the correct scale. Okay, so you might take the print that you do of your drawing, and you might stick a scale ruler next to it, and it might be all over the place. So we want to make sure that 1 millimeter equals 1 unit. We don't have to worry too much just now about anything else other than we've got this correct, and then we'll hit OK. All right, close that again. And now we are confident that we're drawing at the correct scale with the correct units. And that's the first thing you really want to get yourself sorted out with. The next thing is we're going to have a look at the drawing user interface here on AutoCAD. And the first thing that you want to be looking at is what's along the top here. This is called the ribbon. And you've got various toolbars, various functions that you'll use quite frequently. And as you expect, the most frequently used one is up here with the line commands. Polyline, circle, arcs, rectangle. So we're going to be using that quite a lot. And then secondly, just as frequently is going to be a lot of these editing commands here up in the modify part of your ribbon. Okay, here we've got our drawing space, which you probably guessed. Over here is a view cube. For now, we're going to be drawing in 2 dimensions, so you shouldn't really have to go anywhere near these little corners here. You should really be clicking on top all the time until we get into some 3D stuff. Down here, we've got some tabs here. This is our model tab that we're currently in, because you can see that highlighted here. But if we were to click to layout 1, this is the kind of size of a sheet that you would actually be printing off at home onto an A4 sheet. Now, I know this is A4 sheet because this is the default setting that Autodesk will give you. But we could change that to an A3 sheet. We'll be going through that a wee bit more later, but just to give you an idea, if I was to hover over this layout 1 tab and right click with your mouse and go up to Page Setup Manager, you can also check that because, again, plot size is 210 by 297. If we wanted to change that to an A3 sheet, in other words, 297 by 420, you would go up and you would modify the page size by clicking on Modify, and then you would go to your paper size. And of course, if you've got an A3 printer, which is obviously quite important, then you would go to A3. Doesn't really matter at this stage which of these 2 you pick. 420 by 297 is fine. And if we were printing to, say, an A3 printer in the office or in the college, you would drop down with this little arrow and you'd be able to pick off the various printers that you have available. Obviously, if you don't have an A3 printer, then you're going to be just printing to A4 all the time. Okay, so we'll just cancel that and we'll close that. And along the top here, we've got some quick access toolbars. For example, we could save as rather than having to go into our menu, our application menu, and going down to the various settings here. You don't need to do that all the time. You can get some quick access functions here, such as undo. You might be using that quite a lot. Plot, again, we're going to be using that from time to time. At the moment, you want to keep this in drafting and annotation, but just to give you an idea, you can go to different user interfaces with lots of 3D modeling in another part of AutoCAD, but for the time being, we're going to be using drafting and annotation. Down here, we've got our UCS. Now you can move the UCS with various commands. We're going to leave it here at the origin. So if you can imagine this here being set of coordinates, and you've got 0, comma 0. So you're along your x-axis, 0 would be here, and your y-axis 0 would also be there. So if we were to go to, say, 50, comma 50, it might be there. 100, comma 100 might be there. If we were to go, say, 500, comma 500, that coordinate might be somewhere here. Okay, and we'll be showing you how that works in a little while. Down here, you've got the status bar that you're in. So at the moment, we're in model space. Okay, if I click that, I would be in paper space, and I'll explain that a wee bit more as we go along. Okay, so we want to get back into model space. So there's various, you can do things in different ways on AutoCAD. You don't have to use the same function all the time. So for example, if I was to go for a line command, I don't have to pick the line tab. I can just type in L and then press enter, and that would give me the same functionality. Okay, various other things you'll come across from time to time. There's a navigation bar down here. I don't tend to use that much, okay? But just to give you an idea of how to, you know, move your way around the drawing space, if you press down on the mouse wheel, you can pan across because the little hand comes up. That's just like a pan function. And also, if you roll in and out the mouse wheel, it gives you a wider view of what you're drawing. Okay, so if I was to draw a line, for example, here, okay, and just fix that. And if I was to roll in, then it would give a closer view, and if I was to roll out, it would give a wider view. Okay, so delete that. Now, the thing about AutoCAD is that everything is drawn to a 1-to-1 scale. And that means you're drawing at full size. Okay, now it might not appear that way because it takes a little bit of getting used to. You've got to think about, if I was to draw a house, then obviously I'm not going to fit the house on the screen. But if you can imagine that you're controlling a little person on the screen and they are drawing at full size, then you get a better idea of how that works. Okay, so it's you can also imagine it in such a way that you are up high in the sky and you're looking down at maybe the West Lothian College roof. Okay, so the further away you come from the model that you're drawing, then you can see it in a wider view. Okay, if you obviously start to get closer to the ground, you know, if you're floating in the air and you're getting closer to the ground, then you can obviously see things in a much greater detail. So imagine yourself high up in the sky, looking down on maybe a building, a roof, something like that, and then your mouse wheel, you can actually come down closer to the ground to see what's happening. That's one way of imagining it. And there's other ways that we'll talk about as well as we go on. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it there, and we're going to move on to a couple more things to do with your settings. Okay, so we're going to have a wee chat about coordinates just now, and I think the best way to do that is, first of all, to show you how to display the coordinates if you don't have them displayed already. So if you go down to the bottom right of your screen here, and you've got these three horizontal bars right across, so it'll say customization. You need to click on that, and then you'll get a whole list of different display options, line weights, polar tracking, all that sort of stuff. Right at the top here, you've got coordinates, and at the moment this is not got a tick next to it, so you're going to click it to make a tick, and then you'll see on your screen here, you will see the coordinates displayed right at the bottom. Okay, so just to give you an idea, if I was to move my my cursor or my pointer up and down the screen, then that should actually change to various parts of the that coordinate system. Now, the best way to describe this is to probably go into a little exercise here. So if we go into the command line here, right at the bottom of the screen, and then just type in the word point, P-O-I-N-T, and then enter. Okay, so it's asking me to specify a particular point on the screen here. Now I'm going to type in 50, 50. Now what that means is you're going from the origin here, this little XY display here. It's called our UCS icon. You're basically going 50 units across horizontally and then 50 units up the way. And you'll see that in a bit more detail when we hit enter. So we've got 50, 50. So the first 50 is the X value and the second 50 is the Y value. So hit enter. And now you'll probably not see it straight away, but there is actually a point on your screen here. Now, it's not going to come up straight away. So the way to do that is either to zoom in to what you've actually already drawn, or what I tend to do is I tend to go up to the view cube here and click on top, right? You've got to get right over that top and then click on that, and it'll zoom right into the point that you've drawn. Now, if you still can't see it, you can do a little kind of, oops, just do that again. You can just do a little selection box here, and it will come up with a blue kind of square, and that's called a grip. Now that's gripped onto the point that I've drawn. Okay, so you can see here with this grid that I've got displayed, it's going 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and it's gone 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So you've gone 50 units up, and if you were to actually hover right over that grip, this blue square, click on it, okay, and I'll just do that again. Click on it, and you will then see at the bottom of your screen, it says 50, 50, 0 in that coordinate display. Now, if I move away from this, it'll probably change. Okay, no, it hasn't, so that's fine. We've got here 50, 50, 0. So this gives you an idea of how the screen works in AutoCAD. Now, what you were looking at before was you were looking at way up from the sky, and you couldn't see that. But that gives you an idea of how coordinates work. Now, once you move your mouse wheel in and you click on that, then you can see the point that you've drawn. Okay. Now, I'm now going to do another point. So I'm going to type in point and then enter. And it says specify a point again. So in this case, I'm going to put in, say, 200, 200. So I've gone across 200 for my X value, and then 200 units for my Y value. And let's press enter. And you probably can see it now that you've got your previous point there. And now the recent point we put in 200, 200 is just there. So if I was to just click on to the second point, it does say 199 for that Y value. That's probably because we need to be a wee bit more clear with our precision settings, but yeah, there it is now. You've actually got it 200, 200, 0. Okay, so I'm just going to hit escape from that to take it away from, take that grip off the screen. And now I'm going to draw a line to join these 2 points. Okay, so this is really the basics of drafting that we're doing, because when we use coordinates, it means that we can also tie all this up with, say, survey points that we've gone and studied in our surveying unit. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that our object snap settings are working. Now, the thing about object snap settings is that it makes sure that you can lock straight onto this point and lock straight onto that point. So I'm going to go into this symbol here, and it says object snap or O snap. Now you can click on this little arrow next to it, and you'll see all the different locking points that you can lock on to your line with. So if you click on object snap settings, and it'll give you an idea of how this all works. So let's say I didn't want to lock on to anything else, but I'm just going to press clear all there. I just wanted to lock on to the end point of a line and nothing else. Okay, I would just click on to the endpoint with my, and make sure that's ticked with my endpoint. You also need to make sure that you've got this ticked here for object snap, and then hit OK. So now this here should be highlighted, this object snap icon, and now it means I can go to my line command up at the top here along the ribbon. So I'm going to click line, and I'm going to lock from here onto, now I've just got to do that again. I think we need to do a couple more settings. So I'm going to lock on to probably center and node as well. That's probably what we need. So I'm going to OK that. And now line. And now you can see that it's actually locked onto the node. So that's really what we needed to get. Click onto that, and then I'm going to click on to the second point and then enter. Okay, so that shows you 50, 50 and 200, 200. Now you'll notice there that whenever I was drawing that line, it wasn't going across to the 200, 200 point straight away, and that's because here you've got your ortho mode set horizontally and vertically. So it makes it a bit easier if you untick that to begin with, and I'll just do that again. Just delete the line, keep the points there. Now that we've got this unticked, our ortho mode, draw a line again and click from this point onto this point, and you'll see it's much more elastic when we move it about. Click onto that again and then hit enter. So after many commands, many functions, you'll find yourself pressing enter a lot. And that brings me on to the next point, is that there's a number of golden rules we need to follow in AutoCAD. The first golden rule is that we need to make sure that our object snaps are set here, and this allows you to, as I said, lock from one point onto another point. Now if we were to select all of these, for example midpoint, and maybe perpendicular and nearest, and we're okay with that. Now I could draw a line from any point on my screen and lock it onto the midpoint of that line, and you'll see when I hover over that, you get a green triangle, and that means you can lock straight onto that or snap onto it and then hit enter. So this point here has come in and it's directly over that midpoint of that line. Now, basic lines generally have three groups. You'll have a start, a midpoint, and an end. Now that's not always the case, but that's generally the case. Here again, you've got a start point, a midpoint, and an end point. Okay, so that's the first golden rule about using your object snaps. The second point is make sure that you have got your ortho settings correct as you want to draw. Now if you make sure that this is highlighted, in other words your ortho is on, then it means that you can draw lines up and down, sideways to sideways. Okay, basically as we would expect to draw a block, a house, any kind of a building that looks like that. Okay, but we all know that houses, buildings aren't often like that. So some might have a curve on it, some might have a splay on it, and from time to time we might want to draw diagonally. So we've got to go down here, and you can do this halfway through a command. Click this ortho mode setting, and that means you can draw kind of sloping lines. Okay, and we'll just leave it at that point. So that's the second thing you need to be aware of when you're drawing in AutoCAD. I mentioned the fact that from time to time you would be drawing and you would actually be using a number of functions in a command. So not every command is a simple 2 or 3 clicks of a button. Some commands go on for about 6, 7 steps, but you'll find that you'll hit enter after every step to move on to the next stage. So for example, after every select, you will hit enter. Okay, and I'll just give you an example of that. If I wanted to erase that, I need to select it first of all before I erase it. So you go up to erase, for example, in this modify tab. You've got to select it. Now it's selected it, but you've got to finish the command or move on to the next stage by hitting an enter. So enter, and that gets rid of that particular line. Okay, so we will be using select quite a lot. So the golden rule in this case is after every selection, press enter. Okay, another couple of golden rules. You need to make sure that you're drawing with layers. Okay, now layer control is very important, and we'll be coming on to that a little later. Other golden rules, you need to make sure that you know what units you're on. Okay, so if I type in units, as I said before, that will make sure that you're drawing in millimeters or meters or whatever particular unit you want to use. Okay, so that's generally a little introduction to AutoCAD just now, and we'll be repeating some of the same principles as we go through. And the next tutorial will be about simple commands, and we're just going to leave it there.